My name's Liam. I'm 33, and if there's one way to sum me up in the family, it's that I've always been the dependable one. Not the golden boy, not the rebel, not even the favorite, just the guy who's always on time, keeps his bills paid, and never forgets a birthday. I work in finance, live by myself, and generally keep a low profile. My family? Let's just say they're the kind that likes to act close for show, loud, energetic, and great at pretending everything's fine, even when it's clearly not. I've always sort of lingered on the outside. I'd be invited to the big events, sure, but I was never the one asked to stand in the photos. My brother Hunter was always the one in the spotlight growing up. He had that effortless charm, loud, wild, always stirring something up, but somehow, things always worked out for him. My parents ate it up. They couldn't get enough. Even when he dropped out of college, blew through a couple of jobs, and ended up moving back home at 26, they still backed him like he was some kind of misunderstood genius. Meanwhile, I worked my way through college, stayed with the same company for over 10 years, and helped cover the mortgage when Dad's hours got cut. But none of that ever seemed to count for much, not enough, at least, to earn me any real recognition. Still, I told myself not to let it get under my skin. I kept showing up, kept sending the checks, answering the texts, making the effort for holidays. I smiled through the little digs that always came dressed up as jokes. "You're too serious, Liam. Lighten up. It's just a party." Or, "Oh, we figured you'd be busy. You're always working." I just laugh it off. Deep down, I guess I hoped that if I kept doing the right thing, maybe one day I'd finally feel like I belonged for real. That bubble popped last fall. It all started with a dinner. Hunter had just gotten engaged to a woman named Chloe. Mom was already calling her an angel, and my parents decided to throw a fancy dinner at a rooftop restaurant downtown. Definitely not the kind of place they usually went to, and looking back, I probably should have realized something was up. A few weeks beforehand, Mom called me. She used that sweet, oversugared voice she pulls out when there's a favor attached. "Liam, sweetheart," she said, "we'd really love for you to come to Hunter and Chloe's engagement dinner. It's going to be such a special night." Of course, I told her. "Just send me the details." Then her voice dipped a little. "And if it's not too much trouble, we were hoping you might help with the reservation. Just to hold it. We'll pay you back, obviously." I should have known right there that "we'll pay you back" meant I was eating that cost. But like always, I said sure. I called the restaurant, reserved a private space for 15 people, and put down my card for the deposit. I didn't mind, really. It was Hunter's big night. And maybe, just maybe, this would be the time I'd feel like I was actually included. When the night rolled around, I got there right on time, 8 o'clock sharp. I wore a navy suit, fresh shirt, new cufflinks I'd been saving. I brought a nice bottle of champagne for the couple, even made a card with their initials on it. When I got to the rooftop, the hostess gave me a polite nod and pointed toward the private section. I took a breath and walked in. The setup was gorgeous. String lights above, flowers on each table, and a jazz band playing soft tunes in the background. I spotted everyone right away. My parents, Hunter, Chloe, her family, a few friends. Glasses were already clinking, conversations flowing, people laughing. I smiled and made my way over, expecting at least some sort of warm hello. Hunter turned and gave me that usual smug grin of his. "Oh hey," he said, barely glancing at the champagne I brought. "Glad you made it." Then he pointed toward a fold-out chair stuck awkwardly off to the side, right next to a trash bin, no less. "Sorry, this table's for family only," he said, pretending to sound sympathetic. "But there's a spot for you over there." I just stared for a second. Thought maybe he was joking. I looked at Mom, hoping she'd step in, but all she did was offer that tight smile she gives when she doesn't want to cause a scene. Dad gave a weird little chuckle and raised his glass. Chloe didn't even look my way. And then, right on cue, a few people laughed. I stood there a moment too long. I wanted to say something, anything, but nothing came out. My throat closed up. My ears burned. It felt like being 14 again, left out of a cousin's wedding photo because I didn't fit the aesthetic. So I walked to the chair by the trash can, set the champagne bottle on the floor beside me, and sat down. I didn't even bother taking off my coat. A waiter came by and asked if I was with the party. I just nodded. He didn't press, just handed me a glass of water and moved on. So I sat there for nearly 3 hours, watching them toast, laugh, open gifts. I watched Hunter stand up and give some long-winded speech about how lucky he was to be surrounded by his closest people. I watched Mom tear up when Chloe called her the best future mother-in-law a girl could hope for. No one asked if I wanted to order. Not a drink, not a plate, nothing. Eventually, dessert came out. A towering, multi-layered cake with gold flakes sprinkled across the top. The jazz band shifted into something slow. The sun dipped behind the skyline. I realized no one had looked my way in at least half an hour. Then the check came. I watched the waiter approach their table with the little leather folder. He scanned the group, then glanced down at the credit card on file, my card. He took a few steps toward me. "Excuse me, sir," he said, voice low. "The total for the event is $2,893. Should I run the same card for the final amount?" Every head at the table turned. Hunter raised an eyebrow. "Oh yeah," he said, casual as ever. "Liam's got it." The waiter looked at me, waiting for confirmation. I smiled. Calm. Measured. My voice came out steady. "Not my table," I said, just loud enough to carry. I was told this was for family only. The silence that followed was sharp enough to snap. Hunter blinked like he'd just been slapped. Mom's face scrunched into a frown, like she couldn't quite figure out what was happening. Dad straightened in his seat. Chloe's father looked up for the first time all night, brows drawn tight. The waiter hovered awkwardly. "You made the reservation?" he asked. I nodded. "I did. And I paid the deposit. But I'm not with them. I'm over here." I gestured toward the sad little side table. "Next to the trash," I added. "Where I apparently belong." You could practically hear jaws hitting the floor. For a second, nobody moved. The waiter stood between tables like he was holding a live grenade. Hunter looked stunned. My mother's eyes flicked between me and the bill, scrambling for control. "Wait, Liam," she said, voice a little shaky. "What are you doing?" I shrugged. "Just following the seating chart, Mom. Hunter said this table was for family only." I figured that meant I wasn't included. I looked back at the waiter. I didn't eat. I didn't drink. I wasn't welcome. So I won't be paying. Hunter's smirk twisted into something ugly. "Don't be ridiculous," he snapped. "It was just a joke, man. Lighten up. You always take things so personally." The room had gone completely still. Even the jazz band had faded into an awkward murmur. All eyes were on me, and for the first time in a long time, I didn't shrink beneath them. "Yeah," I said slowly. "That's the problem. You think everything's a joke, as long as it's at someone else's expense." Chloe looked genuinely confused, like she was just now realizing something real was happening. Her father, this stiff, quiet man in a tailored blazer, turned sharply toward Hunter. "You invited this man to your engagement dinner?" he asked, incredulous, and sat him next to the trash can? Hunter scoffed and looked to Mom for backup. She straightened in her seat and gave one of her tight, tired smiles. "Let's not blow this out of proportion. Liam's just being dramatic. He's always been sensitive." I almost laughed. That line again. He's just sensitive. He's just tired. He's just overreacting. Anything to avoid admitting something cruel had happened, and that they'd all let it happen. The waiter cleared his throat. "Sorry to interrupt again, but we do need to close the tab. If this card won't be used, I'll need an alternate." Silence. I turned and started walking toward the elevator. That's when my dad finally spoke. "Liam, come on," he said. "You've already paid for half. You might as well just finish it." I stopped cold. That sentence, "might as well," snapped something in me. I turned back to face them. "Yeah, you're right, Dad," I said. "I did pay the deposit." I called few restaurants to find one with a rooftop view like Hunter wanted. I picked the date around his football schedule. I ordered custom floral arrangements because Mom said fake flowers would look cheap in the photos. I paid the $400 non-refundable deposit without blinking. I took a step closer, not raising my voice, just making sure they could all hear me. And I showed up. On time. Alone. In a suit. To support my brother. And what did I get in return? A folding chair next to a garbage bin and a "sorry, family only." I turned to Hunter. "So now you get to figure it out. You and your real family." His face turned red, color rising up his neck. He stood and tried to puff himself up, but it only made him look more absurd. "You're making a scene," he said. "No," I replied. "I'm drawing a line." Then I turned and walked away. I didn't even bother waiting for the elevator. I took the stairs. Every step felt like a release, loud, certain, defiant. Outside, the air slapped me in the face, sharp and cold. I loosened my tie, kept walking. I didn't know where I was headed, but I knew one thing. I wasn't going back. For a minute, I thought that would be it. A dramatic exit, a few awkward messages later, maybe an attempt to pretend it never happened. But I had no idea how deep it would go. Hours later, I was still in my suit, still holding that unopened bottle of champagne like something haunted, when my phone lit up. First, a text from Hunter. "Seriously," he wrote. "You couldn't just pay the check and talk to me after?" Then another. "Mom, you embarrassed us in front of Chloe's entire family. Was that your goal? Revenge." Then came the call from an unknown number. I answered. "Hello." "Hi," came the voice on the other end. It was Chloe, quieter than I'd ever heard her. "I know we don't really talk," she said, "but can I ask you something?" "Sure," I said, though I wasn't sure I meant it. "Did you really pay for everything? The deposit? The flowers? All of it?" "Yeah," I said after a short pause. There was silence. "They told my dad you offered to," she said. "That it was your idea." I felt my whole body go still. "I never offered," I said. "They asked." I said yes. I didn't expect anything back, but I definitely didn't do it for show. She let out a breath. "Well, my dad's furious. He thought you volunteered. He says he never would have agreed to the restaurant if he knew it was being paid for by someone they stuck at the side table." I didn't say anything. "He says Hunter and your parents made him look like a fool." She paused. "I'm not calling to get in the middle," she added quickly. "I just thought you should know." "Thanks," I said. Then we hung up. But that was only the beginning. In the days that followed, things escalated fast, way faster than I expected. And not in the direction my family probably hoped. It started in the group chat. You know the one, the big family thread that usually lights up around birthdays and holidays with blurry food pics and happy weekend. Texts from my aunt. It had been dead silent since that night. Then it exploded. "Mom, Liam, we need to talk. Call me when you have a minute. Hunter, you seriously messed things up with Chloe's family. You owe us a fix. Dad, this is getting out of hand. Just apologize and let's move on." I didn't reply, because it wasn't about the chair. And it wasn't even about the bill. It was about everything. Every moment that came before. All the times I'd been the emergency contact, the designated driver, the backup wallet, the quiet one, the filler. And now that I'd finally said no, they didn't know what to do with me. What made it worse, or maybe better, was that Chloe's dad wasn't the type to let things slide. According to Cole, one of Hunter's old friends who had always been decent to me, Mr. Sawyer had a full-on meltdown the night after the dinner. He'd paid for Chloe's private school, helped her launch her marketing firm, carefully curated the entire engagement season. And now he found out that the groom's side had lied. Lied about who paid for the venue, treated their own family like trash, and left him with half the bar tab after I refused to pay the rest. According to Cole, Chloe's dad said something at brunch the next day that hit harder than I expected. If this is how they treat their own blood, what happens when you marry into it? Ouch. The ripple effect slammed into Hunter like a freight train. Suddenly, wedding planning came to a screeching halt. Chloe retreated to her condo for a mental reset, and just like that, all the Pinterest boards vanished into thin air. My mom, now deep in damage control mode, sent me an email. Not a text. Not a voicemail. A full-blown email. Subject line, "Please." The body? 6 long paragraphs of sugar-dusted manipulation. She wrote about how she never meant to hurt me, how she didn't realize I felt excluded, and how much it would mean to the family if I just sit down with Hunter and smooth things over. Nowhere in that email was the word sorry. Just, "We didn't realize. You misunderstood. Let's not let one silly night destroy the bond we've built." That last line? I stared at it for a while. What bond? Was it the bond where I drove 4 hours on Christmas Eve to drop off gifts because Hunter was not in the right headspace to shop for anyone? Maybe it was the one where I canceled my trip to Italy a few years ago because Dad needed surgery and couldn't afford a home nurse, and I helped without hesitation. Or the one where I co-signed the loan on their second car without being asked twice. The same car Hunter borrowed and never returned? Yeah, that bond. I let the email sit in my inbox. I didn't reply. 2 days later, and Ashley, Mom's sister, called me. That was unexpected. She's not exactly warm and fuzzy. More like the calls you out on your haircut type. A sharp, no-nonsense businesswoman with a designer wardrobe and opinions like stilettos, precise and painful. We hadn't spoken in over a year. "Liam," she said the moment I picked up. "I heard about the dinner." "Of course you did," I said, trying to hide the edge in my voice. "I'm not calling to scold you," she cut in. "I just wanted to say good. About time someone shook the tree." I blinked. "Seriously?" She sighed. "Look, I know how your parents are. Always brushing things under the rug. Pretending everything's fine. And Hunter? He's always gotten away with treating you like some kind of side character. That hit harder than I expected. I appreciate that, I said quietly. But why now? Because now the Sawyers are involved, she said, voice dry and matter of fact. And your mom's panicking. She called me yesterday, asked if I'd be willing to talk some sense into you. I raised an eyebrow. And what did you say? I told her you didn't need sense. You needed space. And maybe it's time they learned how to function without using you as scaffolding. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt seen. Not as a wallet, not as the fixer, just as a person. Later that night, I got a text from Hunter. Bro, Chloe's dad just canceled the deposit on the wedding venue. Said we're not aligned in values. Fix this. Not can you help me? Not I'm sorry. Just fix this. That's when it hit me. He still didn't get it. He still saw me as a tool in his kit. A pressure valve. A wallet with a heartbeat. So I decided to actually fix something. Just not in the way he meant. That night, I logged into the shared account I'd set up for him a year ago. Back when he was unemployed temporarily. He'd never closed it. Still had his Spotify, gym membership, and who knows what else linked to it. Quietly, I moved the remaining funds into a new private savings account I'd opened. It wasn't a lot, just a couple thousand, but it was mine. Money I'd left untouched out of some naive sense of brotherly loyalty. Then I called the bank and shut the joint account down for good. The next morning, Hunter called me 5 times in a row. I finally picked up. What did you do? He blurted, panic all over his voice. I didn't say anything. Bro, he continued. I've got a date with Chloe tonight. I was going to take her to that place she likes, but my card's bouncing. It says the account doesn't exist. I know, I said. I closed it. You what? You can't just. I can't, I said calmly. And I did. He sputtered. You told me I wasn't family, remember? You don't get to use my money if I'm not even allowed at the table. He stammered for a second, then switched tactics. Come on, man. Don't do this. You're jealous. Admit it. You've always hated that I got the attention, Hunter snapped. Now you're just throwing a tantrum because Chloe's dad took my side. I laughed. I actually laughed out loud. Oh, Hunter, I said. You really think he's on your side? Silence. Don't worry, man, I added after a beat. You'll figure something out. You always do. Maybe ask Mom to open another line of credit in your name. Or maybe Chloe's dad can teach you how to stand on your own. Then I hung up. I don't know what Hunter did after that. I didn't really care. But a few hours later, my phone buzzed again. This time, not from him. It was an email. From Chloe. Subject line, I think we need to talk. I stared at it for a while before opening it. That subject line, it felt like the lead-in to something big. And honestly, I wasn't entirely sure I was ready for it. But curiosity, and a strange craving for closure, pushed me to click. The email was longer than I expected. Polite, but personal. Formal, yet laced with unraveling emotion. She started by acknowledging how awkward that dinner had been, and admitted she hadn't realized how I'd been treated until everything fell apart. I was so caught up in planning the perfect night, she wrote, I didn't stop to see the full picture. Then she said her father had been furious. Not just because of the financial deception, but because of the principle. He said, if they can publicly humiliate someone who financially and emotionally supported the entire night, then I need to seriously reconsider who I'm marrying into. Chloe didn't pull punches. She told me Hunter had downplayed everything at first, called it a minor misunderstanding, claimed I insisted on paying, that I didn't want to sit at the main table because I was introverted, that I'd left early for a work emergency. But then, Chloe said she talked to the restaurant staff herself. Yes, I called the restaurant, she wrote. Spoke to the waiter. The story fell apart completely. And then came the line that made me stop breathing for a second. I ended the engagement last night. I blinked. Reread it. Once. Twice. She explained it wasn't just about the dinner. The whole debacle had pulled back the curtain on behavior she'd been excusing for too long. The casual entitlement, the way Hunter talked about me behind my back, the way he dismissed her concerns. He kept saying you were overreacting, she wrote. But honestly, you were the only one who reacted with any dignity. She ended the email with a short, quiet note. I'm not writing this to pit myself against Hunter or drag you into drama. I just wanted you to know, I see it now. And I'm sorry I didn't see it sooner. I sat there for a long time, rereading her words. Not because I didn't believe her, but because I wasn't used to being believed. The next few weeks were strangely quiet. The family group chat went dead. No more daily funny memes from Dad. No passive-aggressive texts from Mom. Just silence. Hunter tried calling me twice more. I didn't answer. After that, he stopped. I heard through the grapevine that he moved back in with our parents. Chloe returned the ring. Her dad sent out formal cancellation notices to the venue and all the vendors. A few of Hunter's old friends fell off the map entirely. Apparently, some of them had only been around for the proximity to Chloe's network, her connections, her family's name. Funny how that works. I thought that would be it. That everything would just settle into silence, the kind that follows an explosion, where everyone pretends nothing happened even though the walls are still shaking. But then, one quiet Saturday morning, there was a knock at my door. It was my mom. She stood there on the porch in a long cardigan, holding a Tupperware container of lasagna like it was some kind of peace treaty. Her eyes were puffy. Her makeup was barely hanging on. I didn't say a word. I just opened the door a few inches and waited. "I brought you dinner," she said. I didn't reach for it. I just wanted to talk. No excuses. That part caught me off guard. I let her in. She sat at my kitchen table like she used to when I was a kid, nervous fingers, forced smile. But something was different this time. No soft deflections. No passive-aggressive justifications. No, she didn't mean it. "No, you're just tired." She looked straight at me. "I owe you an apology." I crossed my arms. "Just one." Her mouth twitched, tightening, almost bracing for impact. Then she nodded. "Fair. Probably more than one." She took a shaky breath. I didn't see it. Not because it wasn't there, but because I didn't want to. Hunter's always been loud. He takes up space. And you, well, you never asked for anything. You just did. You handled things. You showed up. She looked down at her hands. We started treating you like a safety net. Something we assumed would always be there. I paused for a second. Then I said, "That's the thing about safety nets. People only notice them when they're falling. Never when they're climbing." Her lip trembled. "Your father and I were wrong," she said. "We let Hunter get away with too much. We let him treat you like less." I didn't say anything. I know I can't undo everything. And I know a lasagna and a sorry won't fix years of imbalance. But I want you to know, I see it now. And I am sorry. For a long time, I just watched her. She wasn't making excuses. She wasn't rushing to smooth it over or minimize what happened. She wasn't defending Hunter. She wasn't telling me to move on. She was just sitting there, finally owning it. I nodded. "Thank you." We didn't talk much after that. She left the lasagna. I walked her to the door. She didn't ask me to forgive Hunter. Didn't ask me to call him. She just said, "Take care of yourself," and drove away. Things didn't magically repair after that. But they didn't fall apart either. My parents started sending texts separately now. Short. Respectful. My mom invited me to Thanksgiving. "Only if you feel up to it," she said. I haven't decided. As for Hunter, from what I hear, he's working part-time at some startup he can't stand. Living rent-free. Probably avoiding mirrors. He hasn't reached out again. And honestly, that's fine. I've started doing more with my time. I finally took that trip to Italy I postponed. I bought myself noise-canceling headphones. I've been reading books on boundaries, family dynamics, quiet strength. I even started seeing a therapist. Not because I was broken, but because I realized healing doesn't come from waiting for someone else to say sorry. It comes when you look at yourself in the mirror and say, "You deserved better." And then you go out and give that to yourself. So no, I didn't pay the bill that night. But I finally collected on years of silent debt. And for the first time in my life, I'm not sitting next to the trash can. I'm at my own table. And that table is enough.